afternoon, and welcome to Conversations in the Den. I'm Maria Fisher, your host, and this is Jennifer Wolfenden, our co host. And our guest for today is Tara Bushaw.
Hi there.
Pronouncing them correctly?
Yep, it's close enough.
Okay.
But
So,
but it is Tara, right?
Yes, it's
oh,
Tara.
so
Yeah.
Tara.
Uh, Tara, you look great. Oh my gosh, you have 8 kids, really.
Yeah, I know.
You
It's
look
crazy.
amazing. Like,
Thank you.
what do you have? The fountain of youth at the top, or?
I actually started really young. So, yeah, I started really young.
Okay, okay. So
Okay, so you wanted a large family.
I actually didn't. Funny enough, I didn't want any kids. I did not like
Oh, wow.
babysitting. I didn't like when my
Then
cousins
when?
would come over and play with my toys. Like, so it was, the first one was accidental pregnancy, and then after I had one, I was like in love, I have three older ones, and then my husband was like, we're good. And then 7 years went by, and I'm like, but I just want one more. And he finally caved and let me have the one more. And then the other four actually ended up being all oopses like every 2 years. So it was
no
meant to be.
way. Oh, so Tara, tell us about yourself. I know you have 8 kids, but you've had a challenging life. I mean, it's from what I've heard, it's been challenging, but look at you. You look beautiful. You have a smile. You resonate peace.
Thank you.
I mean, how do you have challenging and you do peace and beautiful? Like how, tell us.
So it's interesting because everything that I have had happen in our life, it seems like it's always come with a lesson, or it's come with a reason why something happened in a certain way. For me, I'm sure you had heard that I've got two kids that have type 1 diabetes, and one of those kids has hearing loss. And it's interesting because I feel like the first child that was diagnosed with diabetes, like it was hard to come into this disease not knowing exactly what it was all about, and how how it all worked and stuff like that. And it forced me to do hard things that I wasn't comfortable with. It forced me out of my control freak personality, like, because I couldn't control it. And what I found though is that set me up, honestly, to be that person to be able to advocate for what was coming next, which actually happened just in my immediate family. My husband actually suffered a stroke at the age of 37. And it was a week after I told him we were pregnant with baby number 7. And we went through that whole summer where he was in his recovery and rehabilitation, and our dog got run over, and my car started on fire, and like all of these crazy things. And
Wow.
so then it comes time to have baby, and we're like, okay, maybe life's finally going to give us a break. And nope, not so fast. Baby, I had to have baby. Like I went to the doctor. He said, you have to have him. There's hardly any amniotic fluid left. You need to deliver. And so I went to the doctor, or went to the hospital, and I had him, and he wasn't crying right away. And the whole thing was just really weird. And a week before I had him, things like Down syndrome pages started showing up on my Facebook feed just randomly. And so I just had like this feeling in the pit of my stomach, like I knew something was coming. And so when they finally got him breathing and they put him in front of my face, I knew. And so it was just, but there was, because I had already anticipated it, because it was coming, I was okay with it. And he, of course, had to.
Prepared, yes.
Oh, what was that?
You were almost prepared.
Yes. It wasn't a surprise. And so I really feel
Tara,
like,
can I ask you something quickly right there? Do you kind of feel, I see your sign behind it says thankful and blessed. So do you kind of feel like God was kind of giving you the heads up, like, hey,
yeah.
Tara, You watch daughter. There's something coming here that I need to give you the heads up. You kind of feel like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. And what's interesting, and I'll tie this all around so you'll understand where I'm coming from. So the doctor came in, they said, we suspect he has Down syndrome. He needs to be tested, but he has something wrong with his intestines. He said he's going to need to be life flighted to the nearest children's hospital, which is 5 hours away. And I'm like, how are we going to do this? Like, I had 5 kids still at home. My oldest was on her own, but she was due in 6 weeks with her first baby. And one of the kids at the time was diabetic. We had a 20-month-old was like our youngest, right? And my husband was still recovering. And we're trying to figure this all out. And so I went to the hospital with the baby. And after the whole journey, like, he had several hospitalizations in his first 15 months. But what I've realized is that all of these pieces that happened were deliberately laid out. And with my son, like, there were several times where he almost died from mistakes because the hospital was so full and they were, busy and distracted. And he would have had I not been there.
Wow.
And I know that I would not have been there if my husband's stroke wouldn't have happened, because he would have had to go to work and I would have had to be home with the kids while the baby was in the hospital. And so all of these pieces, so I started looking back at, like, and then here's me thinking, if I wouldn't have had to deal with the diabetes and figure out how to advocate and figure out how to do all this doctor stuff, I wouldn't have been able to be that advocate for my son with Down syndrome. And so it was literally like, I mean, 2020 is, hindsight is 2020. And it was literally, so for me, it was like looking back and being like, all of this happened for a reason. And what's interesting to note, just real quickly, is when our dog got run over, I remember specifically telling my husband, I said, maybe something's going to be wrong with the baby and God knows we can't handle it. I actually said that to him.
You're a very wise one.
Yeah. I mean, so to look back and be like, that's how I'm thankful and blessed.
You can look and find the great blessings out of those situations and be grateful. I'm sure you're grateful that your 8 children are all alive and doing well. And now what I would like to know is, when you were learning about the diabetes, like, what was it that you had to, like, what did you what was your
how did I know?
Yeah, what became your routine, like, of dealing with that with 2 children?
So the first child was, okay, so it's super interesting. So this is another one of those, like, God was at work. My sister had gone to school to be a dietitian tech. And I remember it was so funny. She'd be talking about her schoolwork. And one day I heard her talking about diabetes, and that 2 of the symptoms were drinking a lot and going to the bathroom a lot. And I don't know why that registered. And so all of a sudden one day my daughter, like, I was noticing my daughter was going to the bathroom a lot at night, even though she wasn't drinking a whole lot, which was weird. And so I called the doctor and I said, either she's got a bladder infection or she's got diabetes. I want her checked. And sure enough, she had diabetes. And so they caught it before she ever got sick, just because I heard my sister say those 2 things,
Yes.
But my daughter had it. So she was diagnosed in 2006 at the age of 9. And my son ended up being diagnosed in 2017 at the age of 9 as well. So I had already been dealing with it for 11 years by the time my son got it. And he actually was diagnosed initially as type 2. And I started questioning the doctor, and I'm like, okay, but his symptoms are the same as my daughter's. How did you determine which is which? And so they actually ended up doing an antibody test on him, and they were able to determine that he in fact had type 1 because of the antibodies that he had in his body. And so
Can you clarify what the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes are?
Yep. So type 1 diabetes is when your pancreas completely stops producing any sort of insulin at all. It is not curable. Type 2 generally can be managed with diet and pills. Not always, but most of the time, your pancreas is still creating some insulin. It's just insulin resistant and not doing its job.
Okay. And Tara, when the children, I mean, you had a lot on your plate. Did you have help? Like, how did that work? Because you've got a husband, this is early on in your life. You've got a husband that has a stroke. At this point in time, you have 7 children. Two have been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. You have a Down syndrome child. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, we're talking finances here. We're talking caregiving. We're talking physiotherapy. We're talking rehabilitation. It's all happening all at once.
Right.
How did you manage it all?
It all came kind of in spurts, I guess. Everything didn't happen at once, but I think just because like I say, hindsight is 2020, I'm able to look back, and when I was able to do that, like I could see like the stepping stones, my daughter being diagnosed with the hearing loss was like the first thing, and she was 4. And then it was when she was 9 that she was diagnosed with the diabetes. And then let me see, I'm trying to think. She was born in 97. Yeah. So she was born in 97. She was diagnosed with hearing loss in the very beginning of 2001. And then my husband actually had a heart attack at the age of 26, which was crazy. And that's a whole nother crazy story, and God talking to me. I know it's crazy, but I won't get into that.
No,
and then,
no, Tara, I don't think it's crazy. God talks to me too. So, I mean, God talking and saying things. I mean, the only thing is the difference between you and I and the rest of the world is that we peg it as God talking to us. Other people call it instinct, intuition, premonition, all of that stuff. So God talks to everybody. We just call it something different. So
Yeah.
so continue, girl. Tell me. Yeah.
Yeah. So just real quick with the heart attack story. So that was in 2001. I had 3 kids, and at the time I had a baby, 8 months old, a 4-year-old, and then the 7-year-old. And my husband hadn't been feeling good all day. And I just thought, I'm going to take the kids, we're going to go to the grocery store, and we're going to let him rest. And I went to the store, and it was,
what does that mean? He wasn't feeling good.
he kind of had flu symptoms. He
Okay.
was not, he just was, he's a man, so he didn't exactly tell me, let me in on exactly what was wrong. I just knew that he was sick, and he'd
It's the norm.
vomiting and stuff.
So I'm gonna just say that when I was taking CPR training, once I became a mother, I always took CPR every year or every 2 years. And one thing that they do always say is that they're very men are very stubborn when it comes to speaking about their illnesses and how they're feeling, and
Yeah.
you have to almost like you have to pull it out of them. They will always say they're okay. you
Yeah.
know they
Oh
could be
yeah.
choking, and unless they put their hands up, you won't know that they're choking.
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know so you have to be with men. It's so I understand completely what you're saying. He was just not well, and he wasn't really discussing it.
No, he was playing it off like, yes, he was sick, but he was playing it off like he was fine. And so I decided I'm going to give him some time to just rest without the noise of the kids. And so I buckled them all in, and we went to the store. And for the moms out there, like, it's not easy to go to the store with 3 kids, buckling your kids up, unbuckling them, right?
7 kids, Lord.
Well, at that time it was only 3, but so I go into the store, and no sooner than I walk in the door, I think, you need to go home. And I'm like, but I'm already here. Like, I'm just going to quick grab something for dinner. I'm already here. And it was, no, you need to go home now. And I couldn't shake that feeling. And so I told the kids, I'm like, okay, let's go. And we walked right back out of the store. I buckled them back in. We went home, and my husband was literally laying across the floor, and he's like, I need to go to the hospital, and I need to go now. And this is a man that had never seen a doctor from the time I had started dating him. And so I hurried, got him, helped get him ready or whatever. We get to the emergency room, and literally 5 minutes after we get to the emergency room, they do the EKG. And as the nurse comes over to tell me like his EKG was abnormal, he flatlined in front of me.
Wow.
So if I would have continued to stay in the store, if I would have ignored that voice, that instinct, whatever, I would have come home to him dead.
Yeah.
Yes.
And none of these other kids would exist.
Yeah.
And so it was, so that was 2001. Obviously they were able to bring him back. It was a crazy, crazy thing, crazy story. And then the diagnosis for the diabetes happened in 2006. And then the stroke and my son with Down syndrome, like that all happened in 2013.
Okay, so now
And
did the heart attack have something to do with the stroke?
so it was a blood clot. They don't know the cause because he doesn't have a clotting disorder, but
Mm-hmm.
they did think that maybe it had to do with some cholesterol issues. That's kind of what they're blaming it on. So
Okay.
they never did find a real reason as to why, besides the fact that he had a blood clot.
Okay. So they don't know why he had a stroke, but why did he have a heart attack?
They don't know that either. Just blood clot. They're assuming that it was cholesterol that caused the heart attack. And so then actually, okay, with the
Okay,
stroke,
so did he have
I'll
high cholesterol?
yeah, he did at the time. He didn't know because he hadn't gone to the doctor, but so he's been on meds ever since then for cholesterol. One thing I will say about the stroke though, and they don't know 100%, but when he sneezed one day, like a week before the stroke happened, he sneezed and he held it in. You know how people like sneeze and you hold it
Yeah.
in?
Yeah.
He held it in and he felt something snap in his neck. And he went
Oh,
to the doctor and they're like, oh, you can't snap nothing in the neck, whatever. It was probably you probably just pulled something. And then it was less than a week later than he had the stroke. And so speculation is that he either tore something, though by
Something
the
in his
time
brain
they
like
tried to
that?
do the test, there was no evidence of that. Or they think he could have still been having cholesterol issues or plaque. And when he sneezed, it like dislodged and, caused the clot. So that's kind of what their theory is. But again, they don't know.
yeah.
So that was in 2013, along with our son being born with Down syndrome. And then the second diagnosis of diabetes with my other son didn't happen until 2016 or 2017. So they were staggered, but then in 2005, and this goes to like my mom, I happened to be on the phone with my mom one day. I had this instinct to call her. And I was on the phone with her for 5 minutes. And all of a sudden she says, I think I'm having a stroke. And the phone went dead. And I called
Wow.
the ambulance and she had a brain aneurysm burst. And so it's been
Wow.
things like this all the time. Like that's my life. So
But Tara, what have you learned from all of this? Like, I know you're a very spiritual woman. So when you look back and you do that hindsight 2020, how do you summarize it all?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, honestly, like I feel like we're all here for a purpose. Like we are all here with a purpose,
I
whether
agree.
that is to take the things that have happened to us and help others, or
Mhm.
whether that is, I really believe in making, taking your mess and turning it into your message
Mhm.
and empowering other people with that information, because you don't
Mhm.
know what you don't know, but
Yes,
when you know better,
absolutely.
you can do better. And
Absolutely.
Yes.
and so I do really
That is our
feel,
whole purpose of this of having this podcast. So you are
Mhm.
right on target with that.
Yeah.
We definitely want people to understand that things in life will happen,
yeah,
but you have to look at what you can do do to move forward with whatever has transpired in your life.
right.
Mhm.
And I was just
Right.
having this conversation with my son last night. I said, people pray all the time, but then they're not looking for the answers. And
Yes.
the answers don't just fall in your lap. Like
Yes.
they're just, you have to look. How is that being answered?
Yeah.
I was telling him, I don't know, have you guys seen the movie Evan Almighty? Have you ever seen
Uh,
the movie?
a
Like
while ago, yes.
ago?
Yeah.
There's the scene where God is sitting with the wife in the restaurant and he says, if somebody prays for courage, do you think God gives them courage or the opportunity to be courageous? And if somebody prays for patience, do you think they just get patient or the opportunity to be patient? And if somebody prays for families to love and be closer to each other, do you think he just gives them warm, fuzzy feelings? Or do you think he gives them the opportunity to do that? And I 100% believe that. Like we're
Yeah.
given these opportunities to have our
The
Uh,
prayers
opportunities are
answered,
the lessons. Yes.
but we don't look for it. We just think that it's
absolutely.
going to be obvious. And I think a lot of people, if they took a look once in a while, they'd see that the answer was right in front of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
The thing too, I think one of the things too we don't do is we don't ask for sight. We don't say, God, just let me see. Let the scales fall from my eyes and show me what you want me to see. And every day, just to be able to say, look, at today is yours. Let me do your will. Show me what it is you want me to do today. And a lot of times I say to my kids and my family and my friends, I said, my calendar is full, but everything is tentative. Nothing is permanent, because if he decides something needs to come off, I need to be open and willing to remove it. Like you in the store, you needed to be open and willing to go, you know what? I am not getting dinner tonight. I'm going back home. And lots of times, even I tell people about driving and how I'm driving and I hear this turn left and I go, well, that's too long away. I'm not turning left. And I get to the stop sign and I go, okay, fine, I'll turn left. Well, and then I find out that, there's been an accident on the right. It would have taken me 3 times as long on a short route than it would have taken me on the long route, because I know the left is a long route.
Yeah.
The right is a short route, but I don't know what's going on the right. So, many times, even, I mean, this is going to sound really crazy, Tara, but I quite often, if not 100% of the time, say to God, can you like dress me today? Because I'm kind of fresh out of ideas.
It's crazy how it happens. Like, I mean, this is another, like, something that I'll share with you guys as well. So with my kids with diabetes, like it's never failed. I literally can be in the deadest sleep and I will just wake up on a dime and I will grab my phone and I will look, and even before technology, I would wake up, not be able to go back to sleep until I went to go check my daughter, and she would be low. And if I would have ignored it and went back to sleep, she wouldn't be here. So that happens. It happens literally all the time. I mean,
Well, I think God wants to guide us through. He made us, and we're the object of His affections, and He wants to guide us every second of every moment. But somewhere along the line, we learned that the little things in life is too small for Him. We need to wait until we have big stuff like a death. We need to
right.
wait until we have big stuff like some sort of injury. And God's like, you know what? That's not what I'm here for. I'm here for all the teensy weensy stuff, because
All the time.
I want to hear the sound of your voice 24/7, the sound of your heart voice. I want to hear the sound of your head voice. I want to hear the sound of your body language. I am just so in love with you that I want to hear you talking all the time. You can talk 24/7 and I'll be attentive and listen 24/7. But I don't know. I honestly, Tara, I don't know, where did we learn that He's only cares about the big stuff and not the little stuff? Like, where did we learn that? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know how people or why they view things the way that they do, but I think people are just too busy to listen to what's going on. And I think people don't
Absolutely,
take the
yes.
time to just,
Get caught up in
reflect.
life.
Yeah, they don't take the time to reflect on what's important. And so, and I know for me, obviously, I mean, I watched my husband die virtually and brought back, and and my mom almost didn't make it. She's passed now, but at that point in time, she would have. I mean, they told us only 50% of people make it to the hospital. And then with the diabetes, I mean, we face death every day. And
Yeah.
it's like I could sit here and feel sorry for myself over the fact that we have to deal with this, but that's not conducive.
Yes.
Somebody's got to deal with it. So why not us?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and I
Absolutely.
and I feel
Absolutely.
that I'm a resourceful person, and I feel that I was given all these things because I am resourceful, and I was going to turn them into something else,
And you
which
Yeah.
is
have the
what I'm doing.
strength. You
Yeah.
know, there's a lot of people that don't have a lot of strength.
Yeah.
No.
And it's not a strength for like it's not a strength like, we're not superheroes.
Hmm.
But it's
Yeah.
a strength that we have the faith that
Mhm.
somehow God is going to bring us through this.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
So
agree.
that's the strength that we have.
And it's
And I think,
so hard when you're in the middle of it, but when you can take the
Absolutely.
time to reflect after the fact, it
mhm,
it's eye-opening what you can realize when
yeah.
you're looking for it.
Yeah. And I think too, I think what I noticed with you, Tara, is that you rely on that spiritual power to guide you every single day. And you're not anxious and stressed out wondering, who's low on sugar, whose rehab is passed, who needs their pills. You just kind of know that you're gonna get that tap. and the tap is going to be at the right time and at the right moment, and you're going to obey, and you're going to listen, and you're going to go, and you're going to do. And I think my sense is that you are being guided by God, or your higher power,
Yeah, she's open
and
to the
you
universe.
rely on that, and you don't really rely on a schedule, or you, and so fear doesn't drive you. And for you, it seems to me like the fear has left, and what you have is a confidence in the spiritual power to guide you at every single moment of every single day of every life of your life. And that is a lot of confidence, and that's a lot of peace. And I think that's what I saw when you came on camera. I saw that fearless, peaceful, beautiful, woman that has 8 kids. And I mean, you've got your plate full, but you look no older than 35.
Thank you. I come from good genes as well, but I do. I mean, I have this belief that we're all here for a purpose. We're here for a borrowed amount of time, and I do think all of these situations have led me to where I am. My mom passed in February, and her and I were very close. I mean, she was like my best friend, and I feel like I've dealt with it way better than I thought that I ever would. And I think that's because I watched the journey happen. Like I saw her leave the earth, like I was in the room when it happened, but just the different things, like she was going like this to her blanket, which there was this book that I read where it says, they're separating, from their body. And so like they're trying to ground themselves while their soul is leaving. And she was seeing her dad and she was seeing her brother, and she was, so it was, I think there was a lot of any doubt that I thought that I might have had, was basically vanished from that, watching that happen. And seeing her be so fearless and be so spiritual, and everything that has happened has just laid that foundation
Now,
for.
Tara, what I'd like to ask you is, what do you do for self-care?
Not a whole lot, actually. I don't really feel like I need it, I guess. I mean, I do, I have my own alone time, like I stay up late at night. I have my me time where I just unwind and I do my thing. And my husband is home and supportive. So I'm able to come and do these interviews, which to me is a stress relief because I get to share my message.
Yes.
I'm not somebody that needs to like go and hang out with friends and whatever, because I have a mission to serve, and that's where I feel the most fulfilled. So even if it's working because technically that's work,
Yes.
but I don't feel like it's work because I'm doing what I feel I'm meant here, what I'm meant to do.
They do say when you do what you love, work never feels like work.
No, and
It doesn't.
And it's
It
when it
doesn't.
comes
So
from your heart.
yeah, and you're feeding your soul with the things that makes you that adds to you, that fills up your cup. But Tara, if there are people out there that are encountering life like you have, what would be the one piece of advice you would give to them that you think is the most important, whether they're religious, spiritual, or not? Like, what would be the one thing you could say to them to say, look at, this is important?
I think just to slow down a little bit, like slow down and take a look around, because we're just rushing through life. I think I help people, caregivers and parents, figure out a way to freelance with skills that they already have. And one of the reasons why I do that is because I find that people that are in the 9 to 5, like they wish their week away. Every week they dread Monday and they can't wait for Friday to get here. So they're
Absolutely.
literally rushing. They're wishing their whole week away. They're rushing to get to the weekend. And we have a limited amount of time on this earth, and people spend too much time trying to fast forward,
Yes.
and I think people need to like slow down, take a look at what life is supposed to be about, which
So
is
where
not
you're
supposed to
at
be
right
about go to
now,
work and
in
go
the
to
middle
bed.
of this pandemic, how do you think that's do you think that that's affecting the way people live during this pandemic? The slowdown, we've all had to slow down.
Yeah, everybody has had to slow down. And what's interesting is that I homeschool my kids, and so I'm part of a lot of homeschooling groups, and I'm seeing it over and over and over. Like, I never thought I'd like to do this, but the pandemic forced me to, and we love it. The pandemic has forced me to work from home, and I didn't think I'd like it, but I love it. And so the pandemic has forced people to slow down and step back. And I think they're going to be going into 2020 a lot more intentional about life than they have. And as well, a lot of people are fearing obviously the virus and everything, so they're taking a good hard look at life and what it's all about and how they can cherish it going forward. I find that if people don't experience like the things that we've experienced, it's hard for them to take a step back and be like, I need to slow down. But when they're faced with, I mean, something like this, a virus that can't control, it's putting them into a position that they've never been in before.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I agree with you. Slow down, take a look at what's going on around you. Tara, it's been lovely talking with you. You're such a breath of fresh air. Thank you for sharing your story with us. We're almost out of time. That's why I'm thanking you profusely. But I'm sure your story is bigger than what we've just probably just,
it has been lovely. We've learned a lot. I believe that our viewers have learned a lot from you today.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor to be here.
Yes. No, thank you.
I think that you are stronger than any superhero.
Yes.
I think that you have to when I asked about self-care, I just meant, do you take a moment to meditate? Do you I know you don't have time to go to the spa.
No.
I know you don't, there's not a lot of time when you're a mother. When you're a mother of one, there's not a lot of time. Right. So I can't imagine being a mother of 8. I know you don't have a lot of time. Yeah. But I'm glad you take that few minutes a night just to focus on you, because you are the glue that is holding all of this together.
Yeah, I do. I don't, I take the time, obviously I pray, I do all of that. That's important. I take that time. I usually give myself 3 to 4 hours in the evening where, everybody's in bed, my husband's in bed, the kids are in bed. And like, that's my time, to just reflect on the day, reflect on tomorrow, and have that connection with God that I like to have. And yes, I do to that extent. Yes.
Good stuff. It's yeah.
To hear that.
Yeah. I can't do without that myself. Need some downtime. I call it my tea and devotional time. So start my day, tea and devotional. We all have something that we do that grounds us, and keep us even keel with our peace, But Tara, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for sharing your story. Be blessed in all you do, you, your husband, and all your children and all your families. And do take good care until we talk to you again.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome. Take care.
And stay safe.
You too.
Take care of yourself. Make sure that you're, during this pandemic, you're taking all the precautions necessary. God bless you and your family, and keep you all in covered in His love. Thank you very much for sharing your journey with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye. Bye-bye.